Gettin Real with Ashleydawn, and I want to talk to you today about something that I don't think I've ever talked about on here before, and that is boats, right? So like, I love boating, I love going on boats, I love fishing, I love water sports, wakeboarding, water skiing, jet skiing, you name it. Well, even a jet ski, as little as a jet ski is, if a jet ski isn't on, if it's not moving anywhere, it's not going to make any ripples in the water. It's not going to have a wake behind it, right? No matter how powerful it is, if it's just sitting there and it's not turned on, nobody's riding it, nobody's driving it, and it's just sitting there, it's not going to impact the water around it at all. Same thing with you. If you're just sitting on your talents, if you're just too scared to move, too scared to try something, maybe you feel like God has called you to something, but you're a little too scared to step out of the boat and to do it or to try it. Can I just tell you that no matter how powerful you could be, you're not gonna make waves if you just sit still. And some of those waves are going to influence the people around you. Those ripple effects are going to influence the people around you. A boat. If you want to go, wakeboarding, you need a wake. You need somebody to be making that wake so that you can jump it. Same deal. So I just want to encourage you, if God has given you a dream, what is the worst thing that can happen? I know everybody thinks about failure and they're like, oh, but what if I try and what if I fail? Well, if you don't try, you have already failed. If you don't do what God has put in your heart for you to do, you have already failed. You are already missing out on the blessing that He has for you if you don't use it and if you just sit still. Even if you fail, you're not really failing because you learned what didn't work so that the next time you can learn what will work, right? I watched my daddy when I was a little girl try and try and try, and he's an artist, and so he would paint things, and sometimes he would try something with maybe some new colors or a new technique, that he came up with in his mind, and he would try it and it didn't work. But guess what? A lot of many times that he did that, he discovered what would work by trying what wouldn't work. So maybe you're just supposed to step out. Maybe you're just supposed to try. For people that are wanting to start a business and you're scared about finances, you're going to be scared about finances anyway. If you're working for somebody else, you can still be fired, right? Like, you're going to be worried about finances anyway. So why not step out and try something that you've been wanting to try? Why not step out and do something that you've been wanting to do? And I'm talking to myself in this too, because I have all these dreams and all these visions and all these things that I want to do, but so often I get scared. Oh, what am I going to do financially? Like, how am I going to pay my debt off? How am I going to do this? And how am I going to pay my bills? And how am I going to have savings? And it's so stinking crazy, right? Okay, I'm looking at a building that was just torn down, which is really sad. Excuse me, because that building used to be a Kmart, and I used to go there when I was a little girl. But if they didn't tear that building down, they couldn't build something in its place. So what if somebody said, oh, we can never tear that down, we got to keep that, we got to always keep that there? Well, what if the building wasn't good, right? Sometimes you need to tear down what was there so that you can build something better. Sometimes you need to figure out what doesn't work in your life so you can figure out what does. Okay, people that are in relationships. Have you ever had a failed relationship? I have. I've had a whole bunch of them where I've just poured myself and it didn't work out. But guess what? I learned what I didn't like. I learned what wouldn't work in the future. If I never would have stepped out in faith, if I never would have went on that date, if I never would have gotten to know that guy, I wouldn't be the version that I am of myself right now. I wouldn't be who I am. If I didn't have to go through everything I went through, I wouldn't be me, because every single thing that I've went through has helped mold me and make me into the woman that I am right now. I was just thinking about it before I started filming, and my high school boyfriends and my college boyfriends and my after college boyfriends and my ex-husband, and I hate saying ex-husband, because husband is such a sacred title, and he didn't deserve it, because he had lied about everything that he ever was, and we didn't have a marriage. And so I hate even saying it was a marriage, and even saying that I was married, because legally on paper I was, but even that, like, it's a joke. It's not to me, but it was to him. Anyway, so my point is, if I wouldn't have went through all of the, oh my gosh, the things that I went through, I wouldn't be who I am right now. Were they great? No. Did they break my heart? Yes. At the time, did I wish they weren't happening? Yes. But I look at myself now, and I'm such a better person. I'm so much more well-rounded as a result of the painful things that I've experienced. I'm so much more compassionate and filled with grace, that when God does bring me that person in my life, when he does bless me with a real marriage and a real husband and a real commitment and covenant, I'm going to cherish it more than I ever would have before. I'm going to appreciate my husband more than I ever would have before, because I'm going to know how special and how rare he is. Sometimes you have to kind of deal with the bad to value the good. And I know that sounds crazy, but would we value the sunshine as much if we never experienced rain? I know that when it rains, like especially in summertime, when it's like raining every single day, man, oh man, and especially when it's like hurricane season and hurricanes are coming and literally the sky's gray all the time, I appreciate sunshine. Sometimes the more that I don't have it, the more I appreciate it. When I don't have maybe the groceries that I like that last month or that last week of the month, when your paycheck's kind of dwindling down, and you're going through your cabinets and your cupboards, and you're trying to find something to eat, and it may not be your first choice, it may not be what you would like to eat, it's not like the pick of the selection, right? You haven't gone grocery shopping in a while, you're kind of just eating whatever's left over. That's not fun. You start appreciating that, filet mignon when you're eating some ramen noodles. You start appreciating that, tuna steak when you're eating some Chef Boyardee. I'm just being real, y'all. You appreciate things more when they're not there. When you miss somebody, when they're not there, you miss them. I look at my daddy, going to heaven, and yes, I appreciated him so very much on earth. And every second of every day, I reminded him how much that I loved him and how thankful that I was for him. But I'll tell you what, him going to heaven, it wrecked my world. I miss him more than anything on earth. And there's nothing I wouldn't give to spend 5 minutes with him. I miss him. It's been 3 years since I held his hand. And I miss him. And the value of holding his hand has increased because I can't. Sometimes the value of people in our life increases because we realize how special they are. What is it? You never miss. There's a song that says you never miss the sun till it starts to rain. You never miss, who sings it? It's like, you never miss the sun till it starts to rain. You never miss the da 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 da. Anyway, it talks about, having somebody and letting them go, and then realizing just how special it was that you had them. I would assume, and I'm not trying to be braggy, but almost every boyfriend I've ever had has tried to come back into my life after the fact and say that they were sorry, say that they realized that they were wrong, say that they realized what a good person I was, and they've tried to start dating me again, right? But they didn't appreciate me when I was in their life. It was only when they moved on with somebody else, and then they realized, oh wow, Ashleydawn is a good woman. Like, she's a good woman. I missed out on that. Maybe you're watching, and maybe your boyfriends, you've broken up for whatever reason, and then they always call you. They're always trying to come back into your life. And I'm not exaggerating. Literally every boyfriend, ex-boyfriend I've ever had has tried to come back into my life at least once. Several, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like, obsessively. I had this one ex-boyfriend that literally every 3 months he would call me and just be like, hey, you're always going to be the one that got away. And I'm like, I'm the one that got away because you didn't realize what a blessing I was. Like, that's not my fault. You were unfaithful. That's not my fault. It's not my fault that you were unfaithful. It's not my fault that you didn't realize what you had until you didn't have it anymore. Or until you started dating somebody that wasn't me and that wasn't treating you as good as I did. Maybe you're watching this and maybe your ex-boyfriends have done that to you. Maybe you're in that same place too. I get it. I was there. Sometimes it takes someone losing something or missing something before they actually appreciate it. And that's really sad. That's really sad. I've been there and it stinks. It does. But here's the deal. I truly, truly believe, like, yes, I believe God gives us free will, but I also believe that where it says in Jeremiah 29:11 that he has given us a hope and a future, I truly believe that what's meant for us will not miss us, and what isn't meant for us will not capture us. Like, for instance, I am a rare person that believes in soulmates, if you will. I believe that there is one person for everyone, and I know that people think I'm crazy, and that's fine, but I truly believe that. I believe that God in his timing will bring people together that are supposed to be together, no matter how much time passes, no matter where life takes them, or geographically, like where they are. I truly believe that in life, God will bring people together. Like my mom and dad, okay? My mom was from New York and my dad was from Maryland, but they met in Florida. So what are the chances of somebody that's all the way in the top of New York and somebody that's, in Maryland, I mean, that's kind of close, meeting all the way down in South Florida? What are the chances of that? The chances are very rare, extremely rare, but it happened. And my mom and daddy's relationship is one of the most beautiful relationships that I have ever seen in my life. And so I look at that and I'm like, okay, if God is faithful enough to take a woman from New York and take a man from Maryland and relocate them to Florida so that they will meet, fall in love, and have an amazing life, and have a little girl, I can trust him that wherever my person is, that he will bring them to me in his perfect timing. And if you're watching and you're single, you can trust that too. And some people say, well, isn't that giving false hope? I don't know. I call it faith. I call it faith. I have faith that God is going to do exactly what he has promised me in the Bible that he's going to do. Will it look the way that I think it will? No. Will I be able to put it in a box? No. Will I be able to give God my, grocery list and ask him to do the things that I want him to do when I want him to do it? No. God is not a genie that you just rub and you say your wishes and then he poof and it's done. But I truly believe that God formed our heart, and he formed every desire, every good desire in our heart. And he's a good father. He didn't form those desires to torment us or to torture us or to dangle a carrot in front of us like, oh, look, oh, you could have had this. I don't believe that God is that way. I truly believe that God is a good father that wants good things for his children. And sometimes a good father kind of hangs back. I think of my own daddy, and he'd hang back a little bit and he'd let me go ahead and He'd be like, she's fine, Michelle. She's fine. And my mom, Bobby. And she'd be like, she's fine, Michelle. Just let her be a kid. Let her be a kid. And he'd kind of hang back. And when he knew I needed his help, he would jump to help me. But he'd kind of let me do it on my own. And I think that God's like that. In my life, my greatest representation of God has always been my daddy. He was flawed, he was imperfect, and I know that God is not flawed or imperfect, but he loved me greater than anything I've ever experienced in my life. He protected me, he provided for me, he was tender and gentle and kind. He was also a very tough, rugged man on the outside, but to me, he was kind. And he was gentle. He was stern and disciplinarian when he had to be. But he loved me with a love that I've never known outside of him. And I look at that and I think if my daddy was a flawed, sinner, broken human being, and he loved me that intensely, how much more does God love me? How much more does God love you? And maybe you're saying, well, Ashleydawn, I'm really happy that you had the greatest dad in the world, but I didn't. I had a horrible dad. I have several friends that their dads have abused them in lots of different ways. And, you know, when they think of their dad, they don't think of good things. They think of very bad things. And it breaks my heart, but that's not God. If you've had a father that has been absent, or a father that has been mean or cruel, or that has been a monster, or that has abused you in any way, I want to tell you that's not God. It's not. That is not God. That is not God's heart. God's heart is that you would be his child and that you would lack no good thing. I know this video started talking about, boats and jet skis and making a ripple. But if you haven't had a good father, maybe you're a guy watching and you think, man, I've had a really awful father, and one day I'd like to be a father, but I don't know how to be a good one. My dad's dad wasn't a very good father. He took care of him, he paid the bills, he made sure he had a roof over his head, but he didn't love him. He wasn't tender, he wasn't gentle, he wasn't kind. And so I want to let you know there's hope for you. Because if my daddy could be as gentle and as kind and as loving as he was, coming from the man that raised him, who was the very opposite of all of those things, you can become a great father and a great husband and a great man too. Regardless of how your childhood was, regardless of the love that maybe was withheld from you or that you were, neglected from. You are your own person, and God is going to do something in you that is going to bring him greater glory than you can even imagine. And I am sorry that you grew up in that way, but your childhood, yes, it was terrible, but you've overcome it, and I hope you're continuing to overcome it, and God's going to help you overcome it. But remember how I was saying, like, you don't miss something until it's gone. You don't realize how good something can be until you see the bad. Well, you've seen the bad. You've seen a childhood that was not beautiful. So now, when you give your children the childhood that you didn't get, it's going to have more value to you. You're going to think in the back of your mind when you get ready to yell at your child, how would this make me feel if my dad did it to me? I think about relationships, and, it's no secret. I share a lot that I was in a very awful, I don't even want to call it a marriage. It was legally, but a relationship where I married somebody I didn't know because they were pretending to be something that they weren't. And so I thought I knew a version of him that didn't exist, really, that he was trying to win my affections with this, shiny image of who he was not. But I look back at that and the things that he did and the things that he said, and yes, I could get bitter and I could get angry and I could let that just sour me to future relationships. I could say, well, all men are the same, and blah, 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 blah. But all men aren't the same. There are good men. Even if maybe I haven't had a relationship with a really great man, I truly believe that there are great men out there that are doing great things, that are loving their families, that are laying their lives down for others, that have hearts of gold, that are rare and valuable. And one day God's going to bring an amazing man into my life, and he's going to value me just as much as I value him. And for everyone watching, I pray that God does the same for you. Your past does not determine your future, but your past can give you appreciation for your future. Maybe if you've had a bad past, maybe if you've had, failed relationships. I look at my mom. My mom dated people before she met my dad, and she had a bunch of real crummy relationships with guys that didn't value her, with guys that didn't appreciate her. But guess what? When she met my daddy, she knew what a good man was because she had experienced so many bad men. Maybe, just maybe, that the bad things in our life aren't God punishing us. Maybe it's His grace. Maybe He's allowing us to see how blessed we really are. Maybe He's allowing us to see all the things that He has for us. Sometimes we got to see the bad parts so we can appreciate the good. Sometimes we have to see the rain so we appreciate the sunshine. We live in a fallen world where people make lots of choices that hurt us and hurt others. I pray that I'm never a person that hurts you. I pray that you're never a person that hurts me. But every day we have to wake up thinking, okay, how can I make the world a better place? How can my choices impact the world around me? How can my choices make somebody's life better, easier, more wonderful? How can what I'm doing bless others? How can I use this one precious life that God has given me to make it better for other people? How can I do that? That's what we have to ask ourselves, because we don't have control over our mom. We don't have control over our dad. We don't have control over our siblings, if we have any. I don't, but if you do. We don't have control over our coworkers or our boss. We don't have control if you have children. We don't have control over our children. Yes, we can raise them. Yes, we can, lead them and guide them and disciple them, but we cannot control them. God has given us self-control. Every person must control themselves. So we have control over ourselves. We can use our life to bless others, or we can use our life to hurt others. I've had a lot of people in my life that have used their life to try to hurt me. Just because they've hurt me doesn't mean I have to retaliate and hurt them back. Same goes for you. Just because somebody has hurt you doesn't mean you have to retaliate and hurt them back. Here's like the best revenge ever. Treat them the way God treats you. Don't treat them the way they treat you. Because a lot of time, the people that are hurting other people are doing it because they themselves are hurting, and they're just trying to make other people miserable. Like, have you ever heard that saying, misery loves company? It's true. So don't give them the satisfaction of making you miserable. Don't give them the satisfaction of hurting you. Instead, be kind, be loving, show them grace. Don't roll yourself like a doormat and let them walk all over you either, but you be you. Right? There's a saying about somebody helping a snake out of a fire, and the snake bites them, and they're like, well, didn't you know it was going to bite you? It's a snake. And the person that grabbed it said, well, yeah, but I'm not a snake. Just because it was going to bite me doesn't mean I wasn't going to help it, because my character is to help. Now, I'm not saying grab snakes. Don't be doing that. That's like back in the 80s. Let's not do that. But don't let somebody else's negativity or venom that they're spitting out affect who you are. You keep being loving. You keep being kind. You keep going out of your way to show the character of Jesus to the people around you. Yes, some people will receive you and some people will reject you. But the Bible says that Jesus said when they reject you, to dust it off. To dust it off and to keep going. God has great things for you. And those great things are not, they're not dependent on other people. Those great things are dependent on God. That's like the best news ever. Just the fact that, the blessings you want to give me, God, come from you and not other people. I don't have to be a people pleaser. I don't have to be a yes girl that always says yes. Can you help? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. Can you pay my bills? Yes. No, I'm not doing none of that. You are responsible for your life. I am responsible for my life. However, I am going to use my life to glorify God. Even when I'm scared, even when I don't know. This little jet ski is going. I don't even know. That's a jet ski noise. But when the jet ski is in motion, it makes waves behind it. There's a wake behind it. No matter if it goes to the left, goes to the right, it goes straight, it turns around in a circle, there are waves that are happening when that jet ski is moving. Your life is a jet ski. Your life is a boat. There's not going to be anything behind you if you don't move. You want to leave a legacy? You want to impact the world around you? Well, you're going to have to move. You cannot stay stagnant, and you cannot stay stationary, and you cannot stay still. You need to move. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. Move it! Right? You have to move. If you want to make an impact on the water around you, you got to splash around. If you want to make an impact in your world, you have to make an impact by doing something, by moving forward, right? My friend made these hats. To make these hats, she had to contact a hat distributor. She had to make the logo. She had to make the font and the type style. She had to design every single part of it. But because of what she did and putting that forward, right? And even before that, this Circle 6 is her dad's brand for their family farm. Before she could make a hat, her dad had to come up with the brand 30-something years ago. If her dad wouldn't have done that, if he wouldn't have started this cattle ranch, if his daddy's dad, if his wife's dad hadn't started the cattle ranch, then it wouldn't have got passed down and passed down and passed down and passed down, then a hat couldn't have been made. Do you see what I mean? If God has given you something, you got to move. You got to do it. This hat wasn't because somebody sat still. It wasn't because they said, oh, yeah, I'd like to make a hat. Well, maybe one day. No. It's because they said, you know what? I'm going to make a hat. I'm going to put a logo together. I'm going to talk to some hat people. And this thing's going to happen. And guess what? I'm wearing this hat because that thing happened. Also, if you need farm fresh meats and eggs, contact Circle 6 Farm and Ranch in Duet, Florida. They have amazing quality food. Chicken. They have goats. They have cows. They have... I already said chickens. Eggs. They have duck eggs, if that's like your thing. And follow them on Instagram. Follow them on social media. Follow them on Facebook. Circle 6 Farm. And the hat is from Circle 6 Hat Co. C-O. Yeah, follow them. Buy a hat. The rooster hat's on sale right now, but I don't know if it'll still be on sale by the time I post this video. Anyway, they wouldn't be making hats if they just sat still. And now I got this cool hat because they made it. My earrings are from Farmaricana? I don't know how to say it, but I'll tag it below. They're out of cowhide leather and they're cow hair. And some of y'all PETA supporters might be flipping out, and that's fine if you do. I eat cheeseburgers, and here's the deal. And I wear leather shoes, and most people do because most sneakers are made out of leather. And I am Native American. I believe that if you're going to eat the meat, you should also use the skin. You should use every single part of the animal that you can. It's what I believe. If you don't believe it, that's fine. You don't have to. But these earrings wouldn't exist if my friend didn't cut them out, put little on earring backs, and then go to a little market and sell them. This shirt wouldn't be around if the designer didn't pick out the pattern and sew little buttons on it and make it. My boots wouldn't be, do you get what I mean? Every single thing, this car that I'm sitting in, this phone that I'm, recording this on, YouTube, every single thing in our life is because somebody had an idea and they went with it. Me talking. When I was growing up, I knew that I was a speaker. I knew that God had put a boldness and a confidence and a courage within me to speak publicly that I didn't see in any of my friends. And people would always tell me, how are you so, you don't get scared. You're just so able to just go up in front of anyone and talk. You have all this confidence and all this courage. And I said, I don't know, God just made me that way. And so I started using it. God has made you in such a way. I don't know your giftings, but I know that you have giftings and I know that they're there. And so if God has given you giftings, he's going to be faithful to show you how to use those giftings. But do not sit still. Do not be stationary. It's like a stationary bike, right? I saw John Chris did a comedy thing on a Peloton bike, and he's like, who had the idea to have a stationary bicycle, with a fan blowing fake wind and a screen with different locations? Why don't you just take a bike and go in those locations and actually see it for yourself, right? It's a counterfeit. It's not real. You're sitting on a stationary bike in your house looking at mountains that are on a picture. It's a counterfeit. But somebody had that idea and they went with it. So God has given you an idea and he wants you to go with it. You have giftings and you have qualities and you have all these things that you probably don't even think you have. Maybe you're funny and you don't even know it. Maybe you'd be a great comedian. Maybe you're an awesome baker and you don't even know it. One of my friends, Heather, she has beautiful mess creations. She makes cookies, she makes cakes, she makes paintings. In high school, she used to doodle all the time. She was constantly doodling and drawing, and she would draw, names, and she'd do all this different stuff when I'd be over at her house. And she had no idea how gifted of an artist she was. And now she's an amazing baker that literally can paint anything, that can do anything. People give her ideas all the time. She's like, boom, does it, and it's incredible, and she executes it flawlessly. My point is, if she wouldn't have stepped out to buy that baking kit, to buy that mixer, to do that, if somebody hadn't asked her for her first, business, she would have no idea what a blessing she can be to so many people. What giftings do you have that you're not doing anything with? Maybe you're scared. Maybe you're afraid of failure. Well, if you never try, you've already failed. So the one thing that you're scared of is already happening. So if you try, you've got nothing to lose. You literally have nothing to lose if you try. Nothing. So you should probably try. You should probably step out in faith. And what's the worst that can happen? You learn a lesson and you say, didn't work. Let's try something else. Thomas Edison, I don't even know how many patents he had, but hundreds and hundreds of patents and inventions. And do you know how many times he failed? He said he never failed because every time he did, it was a lesson, but a lot. But he is hugely famous for many ideas and inventions and things that we wouldn't have unless he stepped out and tried. So this is my encouragement to you, to step out and try. I don't know what it is that God has put in your heart. I don't know what it is that God has put in your head. But step out and try. Step out and try. That's my encouragement. I just want you to know that you are seen, you are celebrated, and you are loved. I believe in the gifts inside of you because I believe that God put them there. I believe that you're special. And I believe that only you can bring that thing inside of you to the world. There's only one of you on purpose. I hope this video encouraged you. I love you, but more importantly, God loves you. more than you can ask, think, or imagine. You are loved with an everlasting love. And those giftings inside of you are there for a reason. They're on purpose. So step out and comment below what those giftings are. I would love to hear the things and the passions that God has put in your heart and how he's going to use them to change the world around you. I love y'all. Catch you in the next one.